we'll be setting measurable targets and judging the merit of things against certain criteria and developing policy. And I think it's a great start in developing international relations. It's a very brief report, but it's very effective, and some might say that we can't afford to waste money overseas, but that's very short-sighted. We've got such strong agricultural base and market opportunities in Asia for the clean and green produce that this region produces. We can't afford not to follow through with engagement strategies, but we need to be measured and diplomatic and considered in how we roll this out.
Thank you. Councillor Oresvari.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just touching on a comment made by Councillor Patterson in a previous agenda item, the friendship cities are a waste of time in the sense that if we don't cultivate the friendships with a view to obtaining something from them in terms of whether it be economic or social or cultural or educational, then in that case they're a waste of time. But given the fact that we've identified by way of a strategy moving forward, I'm sure that that is something in the past, and I think that this will really benefit the Greater Shepparton area.
Great, thank you, Councillor Oresvari. I fully agree. Any councillor wishing to speak against this motion? For the motion, councillors?
Yeah, I'd just like to endorse Councillor Oresvari. You know, if they're basically active and we can get a return on it for some reason, whether it be cultural or whether it be financial, that's terrific. But if it's just sitting there and costing us, we're better off without them.
Good. And this is what this international strategy, engagement strategy, will do. Actually, it's proactive in us actually addressing and engaging with these existing cities. Mr. Harriott, would you like to add some comment?
Mr. Mayor, can I just add that? Well, I note that this is the first action coming out of the economic events and tourism strategy. So you've just adopted one strategy and we're already implementing it. But that's the first thing to note. That previous strategy is a major document for this organisation and is all about supporting business, encouraging those events that are so good, the unique events that we have recently seen. There is a debate about where our tourism dollars go. So that was an important document, but this one's equally important, and it's all about support for our businesses again. It's about doing a business audit, about collecting a whole range of information about where people are exporting to and how we can assist. It's about promoting our area like we've never promoted before, and we need to be positive and smart about how we go about it, and you're seeing some really good work already there with Great Things Happen Here campaign, and it's about visitation. It's about getting that visitation stuff right. There's a whole heap of visits that come our way, but we've got to pick the right ones and make sure they're limited resources. Growth through access to international markets, that'll be one key measure of this strategy. The attraction of international investment will be another key measure of this strategy, and the
Good, thank you, Mr. Harriott. Any other councillor wishing to add comment either for the motion or against the motion? Councillor Summer, would you like some closing comments?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good, thank you. All in favour? Against? Motion carried. Now, item 9.9, Councillor O'Keefe. Yes. Don't go home, Councillor O'Keefe. We will call you back in a moment. Item 9.9, councillors. On page 91, we have a recommendation. It's not extremely lengthy, but it's rather lengthy. Do I have a councillor wishing to move this recommendation as a motion? Councillor Summer? Yep. Okay. And seconded by Councillor Patterson. So, Councillor Summer.
Well, I'm really thrilled. We're moving forward, and I know there has been some criticism since the draft budget came out that perhaps this motion is too broad, but honestly, this is the furthest we've gotten since I've been on council, and I'm of a firm belief that there will be some action here. I mean, if we pass this motion, activation can begin immediately. And going by the timeline that we've been given, the works, if works are required, in the mall could absolutely commence by the end of this term, which is very exciting because we also have stage 2 Maud Street to do prior, which has always been part of the first, second and third and fourth stages of CBD activation. I think activation itself is a type of trial and it will feed into the debate about what works in the mall. I think that's a very smart way of doing it because otherwise it would be guesswork. The budget for activation has increased. It was $340,000, now it's $500,000 over 2 years, but it's still less than the price of a toilet block. So everything will be provisional on the understanding that we may be opening the mall to traffic. So we're not going to put permanent structures in the way of this. We're going to be very cognizant of the fact that we may need to remove things. So anything that goes in there either is removable or out of the way. We don't exactly know how things are going to look, but I can assure the public that we will be considering each step on a case-by-case basis. And I'm sure whatever we do, there won't be a quick fix. It does take time. There's a lag time. We need to re-establish consumer and business confidence. But I'm just so glad that something is happening, and I'm looking forward to whatever it is that we choose to do. They all seem, at least we're doing something.
Good, thank you. Councillor Patterson.
I think I can basically speak for all councils in saying this is as frustrating as hell. I can see why in 20 years nothing's happened. It is that difficult to see which direction we should go. I was hoping to get some guidance out of all the submissions come in. That's confused the whole thing more. Everyone wants a little bit. I'm very hesitant to commit $4.5 million if that's going to be the price to open it when we don't know if that's going to fix a problem. You know, it's $4.5 million, we'll still have the same issue possibly. No one's prepared to say $4.5 million will fix it. No one knows. So the only way to go is follow these recommendations. As I said, to the general public out there that wants something done, we are seriously wanting to do something. We just can't get a clear idea of what needs to be done next. And as I said, it's as frustrating as hell. We are concerned, as most people are, about the CBD, but we don't want to waste $4.5 million by opening up the traffic if we haven't got some rationale that will actually work, because we could spend that money and be exactly the same position. So whatever it is, it's going to be a complex answer. And as I've said before, it's between leaving it as it is and opening up the traffic. The answer lies somewhere in there, but we've got to identify it before we spend that amount of money.
Could any councillor wishing to speak against this motion? For the motion? Councillor Giovanetti.
As both Councillor Summer and Councillor Patterson have said, this is a very complex issue and has been for some 20 years. Councillor Hazelman indicated that to us recently at a briefing session, that this particular option has been around for many years. I think as a council, like Councillor Patterson said, we need to do something. It's an opportunity to allocate this money. We can use it for a trial, whether that be parking, whether that be pop-up restaurants, whatever it might be, I've no idea. But it gives us an opportunity to trial what can work there. But I think it also has to work hand in glove with our agreement with the chamber. There's no good spending bucket loads of money in the mall or in the CBD area unless the chamber are on board. There's no good spending the money and developing it if the shops aren't open. So there's got to be some agreement between the shop owners and council that is going to occur. Otherwise, it's effectively we're wasting money again. So I think they're things that we can work through going through this process, but I think it's an ideal opportunity for trial.
Good. Any other councillors wishing to speak for the motion? Councillor Abdullah? Yep, for.
Support. Just to say that it's good to see the much-awaited report. Council staff has done a good job of compiling the results of public consultation in on Maud Street activation, Maud Street Mall activation. Unfortunately, as has been said by my fellow councillors, the lengthy process to arrive at this kind of important decision is often unavoidable, and this could be frustrating, especially for those who are most impacted by this situation, that is the businesses in Maud Street Mall. The report findings highlight a lack of consensus around various activation options put forward by Spire, Wendy Crow, and Peter Kopulis. So it's very obvious that there is no silver bullet. No single solution is going to change the situation overnight. However, there can be some short and long-term solutions. Long-term solutions includes initiating concept design work for all three options. The start to finish time frame for these three options could be from 2017 to 2020, depending on if and which solution goes ahead with detailed design and implementation stages. And another important and interesting point to note is that one of the key barriers to access Mott Street Mall has been identified as parking issues, availability, and cost. And there are, of course, other factors such as variety and diversity of shops, safety of the area, lack of satisfactory public toilets, etc. So during the time that we initiate planning for the three options mentioned in recommendations, some of which may involve multi-million-dollar investments, there are some short-term quick decisions that could be put on trial and that could be in place to help change the status quo. And some of these areas would be, in my opinion, would be and as mentioned in the report, the parking issue, multi-deck car park, trading hours, as pointed out by Councillor Giovannetti, uniform and extended, in my opinion, is the way to go. Food precinct potential, and yeah, so basically these are some of the activities that I would be keen to actively pursue when this discussion is done. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Abdullah. Any other councillor wishing to add comment? Councillor Sutton.
Yes, I'd just like to agree with most of the recommendation. I'd like to see the Maud Street Mall become the heart of Shepparton again and be reactivated, but I would also like to see some of this money used as a trial to get things so we can actually ascertain whether if we open it will work, if we keep it closed with some other things, whether it will work. So I think we have to be a bit careful about what we do, but if we can use some money, some of the funds, to have a trial on some different things, I think that would be the way to go.
Good, thanks, Councillor Sutton. Any other councillor wishing to speak against this motion or for the motion, Councillor?
For the motion.
For the motion, Councillor Osvari.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Councillor Patterson made what I thought was an interesting comment in relation to, as a second-term councillor, I remember when we were sitting here musing about the fact that would we jump at the opportunity to spend $4 million in relation to a potential positive outcome. Quite fairly, I thought we would balk at that suggestion because there's no silver bullet in relation to this. However, I draw comfort from the fact that history has been on our side in the sense that we're not the only ones that have been put through this process, because very young-looking Councillor Chris Hazelman, who was mayor at that time, faced with the same issues. And I'd just like to read a little bit from it. Councillor Hazelman, who was mayor at that stage, and this is dated Monday the 21st of September 1998, just a couple of years ago. Whilst there has been a strong lobby from the business and retail sector, déjà vu call it, the council recognises that the mall is a community asset and the needs of all the stakeholders must be considered. There is no united view on the future of the mall, and the council has not determined a position for or against the reintroduction of vehicle traffic and the other changes in the mall. Council wants to hear your views. Please take the opportunity. So, interestingly, here we are 20 years down the track, or longer actually, and I remember saying pre-election the worst thing we could do as a council was do nothing. And in support of what Councillor Summer has said, finally, as Clancy would say, there's movement at the station. The same situation arrives as was 20 odd years ago when I quoted that article, but refreshingly there is movement in a forward direction, and it's refreshing to hear that there's a degree of bravery on behalf of our councillors individually and hopefully collectively, if this recommendation is passed, that we're actually going to do something moving forward. And I wholeheartedly support the recommendation, and as I hope my fellow councillors do.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillor wishing to speak against the motion? Or the motion, Councillor Hazelman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and Thank you for the history lesson, Councillor Osvari. I remember it well.
Did you sign your photograph?
Yeah, I did. I did like it. I'm going to take a slightly different tack and actually look at the survey results themselves, because they confirm the diversity of views and they confirm that there's no clear direction being provided from community response. That's very much the case of what happened 20 years ago, when I think that the consultation process indicated then somewhere in the order of 85% of people were opposed to reopening. But let's not talk about 20 years. I think there's probably people in the room that can recall from when the mall was first constructed back in 88 or 89, whichever the year it was. This debate was going before the installation. It's been going ever since. And what the polls indicate, if we look at the Shepparton News poll on this one, 45% of people favoured opening, 55% opposed. Our results here to the specific question about what would you do to improve the mall, the highest ranking response of 32% was to open it to traffic. That's great, 32% of the respondents, of around 600 people in total. What it also tells me, though, is for 68% of the respondents, their priority was some other process, to do something else. So there is no clear direction, but it is indicative of the mall's history, that type of outcome. And I think more clearly, a lot of the responses are broader CBD based, and I think that's appropriate because, and I've said it on a number of occasions, in a lot of times when we're having this discussion, the male tail is wagging the CBD dog. We're focusing our attention on one particular area, and there are some things that the council, that's within our scope, around traffic, around parking, around streetscapes. There's things that are out of our control, diversity of the shopping, operating hours, for example. We need an integrated solution. One thing is clear, in that 20 years you're talking about, the CBD has changed quite dramatically. In that time, we've seen the loss of a number of supermarkets out of the CBD, furniture has moved out of the CBD, large-scale electrical, hardware, even a nursery that was in the CBD. So the structure has changed. It's changed because of consumer demand. Consumer demand has driven the creation of the satellites, and people have responded to that. We need to look at an integrated solution for this issue, an infrastructure spend linked to marketing and promotion and uniform opening hours. I think that's a position that's reasonably consistent with that's been espoused by the Chamber in the past. I find in the report, though, the suggestions that we visit other sites such as Stawell, Bendigo, Ballarat, I think that's lacking in merit. We need to come up with a solution specific to Shepparton. And if you have a quick look around, it's pretty easy to find. You know, the Stawell option.
Councillor Hazelman, extension?
Yes, please.
Any objections? Carry on.
The Stawell option, for example, the redevelopment there was geared around a substantial investment in a new supermarket. So its relevance to Shepparton, I think I'm struggling to see its connection. And when I checked this just recently, an issue that's occurring in Stawell is concerns about large numbers of shop vacancies in that region, in that particular locality. So I'm not too sure what we're going to gain by visiting places that are being put forward as potential solutions, but obviously have their own range of issues. And similar when I hear comparisons with places like Wagga and Albury, where consideration is being put forward for the introduction of paid and regulated parking. So I think we've got to come up with a solution that's specific to Shepparton, not something that we've pinched from somewhere else. And I've always advocated a forum, as outlined in the report, have done so for quite some time, and I've probably been a little bit one out at various stages on that. I think a forum of all of the stakeholders to look at the issue, the broad range of CBD-based issues that are outlined in the report on page 94, is a significant and substantial way forward. At the end of the day, there's no single solution for this problem. The single solution, if it was available, or the simple solution as well, would have been done 20 years ago. There was a proposition put forward, community rejected it, and effectively significant parts of the community are rejecting this again.
Thank you, Councillor Hazelman. Any other councillor wishing to speak against this motion? There's no one left but me, and I'm going to speak to this motion and for this motion. I think it's probably the best bit of logical work that our officers have done, actually, and that's not disrespecting all your other recommendations that have come up for the last 2 years. But I think this is really, it does actually incorporate all the different aspects of so-called silver bullet solutions, but it's logically stepped out. The 500,000 no doubt will be spent in such a way that if point 3A, B and C are somehow acted on down in the future, or the very near future I would suspect, well, that money isn't being spent in isolation. It will be part of the larger expenditure if it were to open. So it allows for a full opening of the mall. It allows for other variations of it, and we're stepping through this step by step. And as Councillor Sutton said, possibly after the first allocation in the first year of 250,000, we may find that that's actually on a long way to rectifying the situation. If not, the other steps are there available for us to step through. So I think it's, as I said, it's a logical steps that I can't, I just really want to applaud the officers for putting this together, to be quite honest, because I think, as Councillor Patterson said, this is one of the most frustrating subjects that councillors have had to face since I've been on council, and well before that as well. So at least, as Councillor Isra said, we are taking action, and this is definite action. There's no stepping back from this now. We're moving forward. The resolution will be a successful $500,000 spend or an opening of the mall. Having said that, all in favour of the motion? Closing comments. Sorry, Councillor Summer, I forgot. You have my apologies, and you have the floor.
I just thought that there were some interesting comments by Councillor Hazelman. I thought it was interesting, the integrated solution. I completely agree. We do need uniform shop hours. There needs to be some onus on business to find their own solutions, because council can't fix everything. There's no single solution that's going to make everything better. Whether it's all down to consumer demand on why we have empty shops, that's questionable. I believe that infrastructure has a very large bearing. It needs to be a pleasant environment. That's always taken into account. You need to encourage foot traffic, whether there's shade, whether there's access to public toilets. These are all things that council can do. I do agree with Councillor Hazelman that we're comparing apples and oranges when we look at other malls around the state. Bendigo in particular was built to be a mall. There's some very tall, grand buildings there. I believe they have a Myers. We have a street with shops down the road, and we concreted that street, and that shows. We are not necessarily building a mall unless we start from scratch and make sure that it's state of the art. So in saying that, again, I'm just looking forward to see what comes out of this. That's it.
Thank you. All in favour of the motion? Against? Motion carried. Can we call in Councillor O'Keefe if she hasn't fallen asleep?
Hargrave Street. They just blocked up the street. Yeah, Hargrave Street is the Bendigo Mall.
Yeah, that's right.
Around the periphery.
Okay, councillors, page 9, we have tabled motions. We don't have any. No reports from council delegates to other bodies. Reports from special committees and advisory committees, nil. Notice of motion, amendment or rescission, nil. Item 14.1 on page 100. It's documents for signing and sealing. There's a recommendation on page 100. Do I have a councillor wishing to move that recommendation as a motion? Yes, Councillor Hazelman, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Sutton? Councillor Hazelman?
No,
Nothing to add? No. Councillor Sutton? None? Or any councillor wishing to speak against this motion?
Clarification, please. Acquisition of land to facilitate extension of the Ivanhoe drainage basin. Where is that? Acquisition of land is always quite sensitive, so I'd like to know what I'm voting on.
Just near Box Hill.
Ivanhoe Court, isn't it? Is it it's Ivanhoe Court, isn't it?
We thank you for that. We'll pick up that typo. It's cool.
Someone's house, just a bit of land.
It's off Fernie Road, correct?
Yeah.
It'll just be farmland.
Oh, farmland.
What? I'd need more information on that. I'll abstain.
Can you please clarify? Yes.
The land there is a mixture of commercial, industrial and residential land. The land that the basin's on is council land. and we're looking to acquire a small parcel of commercial and industrial land to enhance the size of the basin to improve drainage in the area.
Or objections that would have come through a panel or us?
Good, thanks. Any other councillor wishing to speak for to this motion, in support of the motion? No? Against? None? Councillor Hazelman?
Abstain.
No. All in favour? Against? Carried. Item 15.1 on page 102, we have a recommendation that the summary of the Council's community interaction and briefing program be received. Do I have a councillor wishing to move this as a motion? Councillor O'Keefe. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Giovanetti. Councillor O'Keefe.
Supporting the importance of these committees. Pretty much we're all involved and do as much as we can. But yes, I follow the recommendation that we should definitely support the continuation of these programs.
Thank you. Councillor Giovanetti.
With Councillor O'Keefe, nothing further to say.
Any councillor wishing to speak against this motion? Or the motion? Councillor Summer.
Just the level of engagement is enormous. I know that most of these are taken up by yourself, Mr. Mayor, but we do try to get along to as many as possible. This is where we really get to the grassroots of the community, where we have these conversations and show our interests, and this is where we learn exactly what is going on in the community. A lot of people aren't engaged, they're not aware of all these things that we do and what's going on around the town, and this is just an example of the effort that we all make to be representing our community the way that we were elected to.
Any other councillor wishing to add comment for or against? None. Councillor O'Keefe. No closing comments. All in favour? Against? Motion carried. Item 16.1, Assemblies of Councillors. We have a motion on page. I'm getting to it. Page 123.
Just have a quick point of clarification before we move and second that. On page 107, matter number 14, was parking infringements part of our meeting, or was that an SDS? And also on page 117, matter number 11, parking in the CBD, was that a briefing agenda item or was that an SDS?
What was that, 111?
107 and 117.
Oh, sorry.
Doesn't matter whether it's this or not.
Yeah, from memory, and I was only at one of those meetings, I wasn't at the other, I think they were SDS items, from what I can recall.
One I brought up regarding parking infringement, and that's on page 117. 107.
That's confirmed, Councillor Summer, that's correct. It was SDS.
It wasn't me, I wasn't there.
Okay. Well, I'd move a motion that that the record of assemblies of councillors be accepted with the omission of matter number 14 on page 107 and matter number 11 on page 117.
It's still Assemblies of Councillors.
It's Assemblies of Councillors, Councillor Summer, so whether it was an SDS item or an agended briefing item, it's still a discussion that was had.
I believe it's misleading on the proviso that not all SDS items are listed as well, only the parking.
Well, I can't actually answer whether all SDS items were listed. We list all SDS? Well, I've just been confirmed that all SDS items are listed.
Can you tell me where?
Well, no, I can't. But
Okay.
Good answer.
very good answer.
Accept that. That was unexpressed.
So now it wasn't my train of... Oh, sorry. I need a councillor to move that recommendation as a motion. Councillor Giovanetti, a seconder, please. Councillor Patterson, any comments, Councillor Giovanetti?
No, straightforward, Mr. Mayor.
Good, Councillor Patterson.
Very straightforward.
Against? Anyone wishes to speak against the motion? No. Any councillor wishing to speak for the motion? Councillor Giovanetti, some eloquent closing comments? None? No, great. All in favour? Motion carried. I mean, all against, sorry, there is none, so motion carried. And now, item 17, urgent... Sorry, councillor.
I'll move the motion on page 124.
Beg your pardon? Oh, I haven't got there yet.
You've jumped the gun.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, my apologies.
You've got to admire the enthusiasm.
Good enthusiasm.
Presume there's none. Public question time. Do we have any questions?
Yes, we do, Mr Mayor. Yes, sir. We've got two questions from Mr John Gray, and welcome, John. He's in the audience, so let's go through. The first one relates to a request to, and we've got a written response for John, so I won't read it. The first question relates to a request to compare the financials relating to parking versus... In summary, we generate a surplus in relation to metered non-metered parking approximately 85,000. So the turnaround on that to go from one to the other is a net figure of around about. Question 2. There are a number of dead trees in the public urban places in Greater Shepparton. Yes, we agree there are. Thanks, Will. Is that better? No, it's all right. There are a number of dead trees and they're programmed to be removed, and as you would expect, the replacement of significant urban trees will happen during the winter period, so that's all in train. And whilst we've got the opportunity, we put out a note to community members that do know of any trees that have been removed and haven't been replaced over time. Please let us know, and we'll fill the gaps as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Harriott. Item number 19, confidential management reports. 19.1, designation of confidentiality of information. So there's a recommendation on page 124, Councillor Giovanetti. Do I have a councillor wishing to move that recommendation as a motion? Oh, good. Councillor Patterson. Do I have a seconder, please?
Sorry?
Seconder.
I thought Councillor Patterson seconded it.
No, he moved it.
Bruce,
You didn't actually respond to my request. So, you missed out. You can second it if you choose to. So, Councillor Patterson, you don't want to speak to the... Oh, sorry, I shouldn't say that.
only second, but I can't.
No, you actually moved it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, all very self-explanatory.
Good. Councillor Giovanetti, any comments?
No comments, Mr Mayor.
Good. Any councillor wishing to speak against this motion? None. For? All in favour? Sorry, no closing comments. Sorry, Dennis, you had the opportunity for some closing comments.
Oh,
but there was none.
voting.
I know you are. All for. So, motion carried. So, that being said, we'll have to vacate the room. Not us, obviously. Sorry, the public gallery.
Take a rubbish with you too, please, John. Keep the door closed, let's get into it.
Right, so what do we have here? We have security issues where the door must be open, isn't that correct?
I'd like to move
Is
a
that a
recommendation on page 2.
Security consideration. Sorry, Councillor Patterson. I'm waiting till Councillor Hazelman takes his seat. We have a recommendation on page 2. Who wishes